Sundays with Hridaan. Today I am going to read a story from the book of Horrid Henry by Francesca Simon. So here I go. Moody Margaret moves in. Mom was on the phone. Of course, we'd be delighted to have Margaret, she said. It would be no trouble at all. Henry stopped breaking the tails of Peter's plastic horses. What? He howled. Shh, Henry, said Mum. No, she added. Henry was delighted to see you Friday. What's going on? Said Henry. Margaret is coming to stay here while her parents go on a holiday together, said Mum. Henry was speechless with horror. She's going to stay here? Yes, said Mum. How long? Said Henry. 2 weeks, said Mum brightly. Horrid Henry could not stand moody Margaret for more than 2 minutes. 2 weeks? He said. I'll run away. I'll rock her out of the house. I'll put her hair out. Don't be horrid, Henry, said Mum. Margaret is a lovely girl, and I am sure we'll have fun. No, we won't, said Henry. Not with the moody old grouch. I'll have fun, said perfect Peter. I love having guests. Here is a picture I forgot to show you. She is not sleeping in my room, said Horrid Henry. She can sleep in the cellar. No, said Mum. You will move into Peter's room and let Margaret have your bed. Horrid Henry opened his mouth to scream, but only a rasping sound came out. He was so appalled he could only gasp. Give up my room, he choked to Margaret. Margaret, spying on his treasures, sleeping on his bed, playing with his toys while he had to share a room with Peter. No, howled Henry. He fell on the floor and screamed. No, I don't mind giving up my bed for a guest, said perfect Peter. It's the polite thing to do. Guests come first. Henry stopped howling just long enough to kick Peter. Ow! Screamed Peter. He burst into tears. Mum! Henry! Yelled Mum. You horrid boy! Say sorry to Peter. She's not coming, shrieked Henry. And that's final. Go to your room, yelled Mum. Moody Margaret arrived at Henry's house with her parents, 4 suitcases, 7 boxes of toys, 2 pillows and a trumpet. Margaret won't be having any trouble, said her mum. She's always polite, eats everything and never complains. It's the right thing, precious. Yes, said Margaret. Margaret's so fuss-pot, said her dad. She's good as gold. Aren't you, precious? Yes, said Margaret. Have a lovely holiday, said Mum. We will, said Margaret's parents. The door slammed behind them. Moody Margaret marched into the sitting room and swept a finger across the mantelpiece. It's not clean, is it? She said. You will never find so much dust at my house. Oh, said Dad. A little dust never hurts anyone, said Mom. I'm allergic, said Margaret. Only one whiff of dust. I'll start to... Achoo! We'll clean up right away, said Mom. Dad mopped. Mom swept. Peter dusted. Henry hoovered. Margaret directed. Henry, you have missed a big dust ball right there, said Margaret, pointing under a sofa. Horrid Henry hovered as far as from the dust as possible. Not there, here, said Margaret. Henry aimed the hoover at Margaret. He was a fire-breathing dragon, burned his prey to a crisp. Help! Shrieked Margaret. Henry, says Dad. Don't be horrid, said Mum. I think Henry should be punished, said Margaret. I think he should be locked in his bedroom for 3 weeks. I don't have a bedroom to be locked up in, 'cause you are in it, said Henry. He glared at Margaret. Margaret glared back. I am the guest, Henry, so you better be polite, hissed Margaret. Of course he'll be polite, said Mum. Don't worry, Margaret. Any trouble, you come straight to me. Thank you, said moody Margaret, smiling. I will. I am hungry, she added. Why isn't supper ready? It'll be soon, said Dad. But I always eat at 6 o'clock, said Margaret. I want to eat now. All right, said Dad. Horrid Henry and moody Margaret dashed for the seat facing the garden. Margaret got there first. Henry shoved her off. So then Margaret shoved him off. Third, Henry landed on the floor. Ouch, said Henry. Let the guest have the chair, said Dad. But that's my chair, said. That's where I always sit. Have my chair, Margaret, said perfect Peter. I don't mind. I want to sit here, said moody Margaret. I am the guest, so I decide. Horrid Henry dragged himself around the table and sat next to Peter. Ouch! Shrieked Margaret. Henry kicked me. No, I didn't, said Henry, outraged. Stop it, Henry. That's no way to treat a guest. Henry stuck out his tongue at Margaret. Moody Margaret stuck out her tongue even further, then stomped on his foot. Ouch! Shrieked Henry. Margaret kicked me. Moody Margaret gasped. Oh, I am ever so sorry, Henry, he said sweetly. It was an accident, silly me. I didn't mean to. Really, I didn't. Dad brought the food to the table. What's that? Asked Margaret. Baked beans, corn on the cob and chicken, said Dad. I don't like baked beans, said Margaret. I like corn. I like my corn off the cob. Mom scraped the corn off the cob. Now put the corn on the separate plate, shrieked Margaret. I don't like vegetables touching my meat. Dad got out the pirate plate and the duck plate and the happy birthday Peter plate. I want the pirate plate, said Margaret, snatching it. I want the pirate plate, said Henry, snatching it back. I don't mind which plate I get, said perfect Peter. It's a plate. A plate. No, it isn't, shouted Henry. I am the guest, shouted Margaret, so I get to choose. Give her the pirate plate, Henry, said Dad. It is not fair, said Henry, glaring at his plate, decorated with little ducks. She is the guest, said Mum. So, said Henry, wasn't there an accident Greek? So who stretched all his guests on an iron bed if they were too short, or lopped off heads and feet if they were too long? That guy is sure know how to deal with horrible guests like moody Margaret. Yuck, said Margaret, spitting out a mouthful of chicken. You have put salt in it. Only a little, said Dad. I never eat salt, said Margaret. It's not good for me, and I always have peas at my house. We'll get some tomorrow, said Mum. Peter lay asleep at the top bunk. Horrid Henry sat listening to the door. He scattered all the crumbs all over. Margaret's bed, he couldn't wait to hear her scream. But there wasn't a sound coming from Henry's room. Where Margaret, the invader, lay, Henry couldn't understand it. Sadly, he climbed on into the shame of it, the bottom bunk. Then he screamed. His bed was filled with jam, crumbs, and some squishy and horrible. Go to sleep, Henry shouted. Dad, that's Margaret. That Margaret, he booby trapped the room, cut all of her doll's clothes, painted her face purple. Henry smiled and grimly. Oh yes, he'd fix moody Margaret. Mom and Dad sat in the sitting room watching TV. Moody Margaret appeared on the stairs. I can't sleep with all that noise. Mom and Dad looked at each other. We are watching very quietly, dear, said Mom. If I can't sleep, so if there is any noise in the house, said Margaret, I have very sensitive ears. Mom turned off the TV and picked up her knitting needles. Click, click, click. Margaret reappeared. I can't sleep with that clicking noise, she said. All right, said Mom. She sighed a little. And it's cold in my bedroom, said moody Margaret. Mom turned up the heat. Margaret reappeared. Now it's too hot. Moody Margaret turned down. My room smells funny, said Margaret. My bed is too hard, said Margaret. My room is too stuffy, said Margaret. My room is too light, said Margaret. Good night, Margaret, said Mom. How many more days she's staying, said Dad. Mom looked at the calendar. Only 13, said Mom. Dad hid his face in hands. I don't know if I can live that long, said Dad. Toot toot! Mom blasted out of the bed. Toot toot! Dad blasted out of the bed. Toot 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 toot! Henry and Peter blasted out of the bed. Margaret marched down the hall playing with her trumpet. Toot 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 toot! Margaret, would you mind playing your trumpet a little later? Said Dad, clutching his ears. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. That's when I wake up. Could you play a little more softly? But I have to practice, said moody Margaret. The trumpet blared on the house. Toot, toot, toot. Horrid Henry turned his boombox. Boom, boom, boom. Margaret played her trumpet louder. Toot, toot, toot. Henry blasted his boombox as loud as he could. Boom, boom, boom. Henry shrieked. Mom, turn that down, bellowed Dad. Quiet, screamed Margaret. I can't practice with all this noise. She put down her trumpet. And I am hungry. Where is my breakfast? We only have breakfast at 8, said. But I want to have breakfast now. I'm very hungry on this Margaret. Mom said enough. No, said Mom fiercely. No. Mom had enough. No, said Mom firmly. We eat at 8. Margaret opened her mouth and screamed. No one could scream as long as I can scream, as moody Margaret. Her piercing screams echoed through the house. All right, said Mom. She knew when she was beaten. We'll eat now. That night everyone was asleep. Horrid Henry crept into the sitting room and picked up the phone. I'd like to leave a message, he whispered. Bang, 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 ding dong, ding, ding dong. Henry sat up in the bed. Someone was banging on the door at the front. Who can be at this time at night? Dad peeked through the window. Where's my baby? Shouted Margaret's mom. Where's my baby? Shouted Margaret's dad. Upstairs, said Mom. Where else? What happened to her? Shrieked Margaret's mom. We got her case quick as we could, shrieked Margaret's dad. Mom looked at each other. What was going on? Said Mom. Margaret's mom then looked at it. What's going on? But the message said it was an emergency to come at once, said Margaret's mom. Should we cut short our holiday? Said Margaret's dad. What message? Said Mom. What's going on? I can't sleep with all this noise, said moody Margaret. Bye bye. See you next Sunday because the chapter is too long now. Let me see how many pages. Oh my God. It's still here. This much more pages. Now I can't read. So bye bye. See you next Sunday. Sunday is Hridaan. Bye bye. Now in the next Sunday I am going to read this chapter like this for 2 Sundays or 3 Sundays. I'll read this whole chapter because this book is very big. So bye bye. Like the channel. See you next Sunday. Subscribe. Bye bye.